Today's a rough one. Sitting here, ultimately, camera's shaking a little bit. I'm in a little bit of pain. Just sat in a tube. Just sat in a tube for about 30 minutes getting an MRI on my upper part of my spine. Ultimately, just tight from trying to get up. Have a problem breathing. Definitely feeling a lot of pain in the lower back right now, and definitely ready to be gone. I gotta wait 10 minutes or so to get a disc, but ultimately hoping to wrap this up here shortly, and then I gotta share some results with you when we get them, and I'll share some other results with my lumbar spine, and ultimately kind of go through that a little bit. But this is a part of it. It sucked. Hate being in that tube, squished, and definitely hurting. Definitely waiting for my disc, and check in a little bit later. Today is not going great.
The channel's called Broken and Heavy. Well, ultimately, that's because, well, I'm broken. And frankly, I'm fat and heavy. But the one thing that I've mentioned is I'm broken. Yes, I know. And I didn't really get into what that is except for a kind of a high-level overview. So today we're going to talk about what is that high level and ultimately what does that mean. So I'm going to pull up kind of my doctor records and the MRIs and the last two that I've gotten, which are going to show my lumbar and my thoracic spine, and kind of misses on one of the other factors, which is something called kyphosis. And kyphosis is simple. If you've ever seen a movie called The Hunchback of Notre Dame, well, his giant back is pretty much from kyphosis. It's a rounding of the back of the spine where everything kind of starts to move forward, and I've got that as well. But ultimately, what I'm going to do here is over here, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my records. So as you can see here, I've got my records posted, and we're going to start off with the thoracic spine. And for those of you who don't know, and that's okay, it's the upper middle part of your spine. And so there's multiple sections, and these are the two that I'm familiar with because that's what they've told me is where everything stems from. So as you can see from my thoracic spine, I have some old compression fractures or wedge fractures, and basically they form little shapes like a wedge, and think of like a door stop. And I've got 5 discs now that ultimately have these fractures. And as you can see, some stenosis, which is just narrowing of the canal. And there's something called epidural fat, which is obviously what we're addressing by trying to lose weight as part of this. So, as you can see, these are my thoracic issues. And the one thing that it doesn't talk about in MRI is it's more about bone density, and seeing the actual nerve inside is going to be the kyphosis. And that's probably realistically something that was not diagnosed in my life, and that is the problem that led to having these wedge fractures and having bends. And when I pushed it and start doing things, that's my problem. And that is where probably most of this stemmed from, is being undiagnosed and waiting until something happened. But as you can see, we've got the wedge fractures, and I'll show this quick overview right here. And it kind of just goes through everything line by line. So this image, just a highlight and an overview of what my thoracic spine looks like, and kind of what that means to you and what that means to me, and is ultimately when I start moving around and I start doing my stuff and I start going for a walk, or I start standing and cooking. As you'll see next episode, we're going to start going through my cooking process of what we ordered from Wild Fork. And that alone, it starts to feel like somebody's pushing in on the back of your rib cage. And it kind of sucks some of your wind out, and it feels kind of like someone's also trying to climb you at the same time. And it's not necessarily fully painful right away, but over time it gets painful. But it just kind of feels like someone's giving you a giant bear hug and squeezing as hard as they can. I hope that makes sense, and it's the best way that I can kind of explain it. But it takes your breath away, and it hurts, and it starts to squeeze to the point where I have to do something to take pressure off of the upper part of my spine. Fine. It just means that for right now, that limits how much I can walk, how long I can walk, how long I can stand, what I can do. Frankly, even sitting upright, I'm starting to feel it, and it's tight, and it's annoying, and it means that I lose focus. So I try to do my best, but sometimes I'm not really there. And I apologize to the people in my life and around and stuff, but at a certain point, it's just, you just don't know. And it just starts to hurt. And that sucks. So that is my thoracic spine. And now we've got my lumbar spine. And as you can see from the results here of the MRI, they're a little bit different. Both have degenerative issues, which, okay, fine. Things aren't coming across properly. Well, of course, I've got kyphosis, wedge fractures, and miscellaneous. And same with the lumbar spine. But this is the one that can be really annoying and mean that I'm having a okay day or a really bad day. And as you can see, literally from top to bottom, every single disc, there's some sort of herniation. And same thing when we start talking about stenosis and stuff touching and all this, and it's just messy. So with the herniations come the pain, and that can be just an instant, just like turning on a light switch. All of a sudden I'm sitting there and just boom, and it hits me like electricity, and it just instantly starts going through my back. And depending on how much, if I'm standing and walking, it can be something as simple as walking from the fridge to walking to this chair, and it can feel like somebody is lighting my body and my lower extremities on fire, and it burns. And I don't know how to describe it, and it is definitely some of the worst pain I've ever felt in my life, and I don't wish it on anybody, period. And it ultimately just starts to come down my leg, and it's gotten to my low calf, and to the point where I literally cannot use my legs. And I was stuck in bed for most of 2025, physically unable to walk because of how much pain and pressure just standing up literally would make it, to the point where I would just instantly be in pain. I was laying down and I could not get out of pain. My physical therapist was my savior. He came over and helped me manipulate things or move, I don't know, whatever they do. They're magic. And I couldn't stretch, and I still can't. And realistically, that's due to this one right here. This one. This pinch. The one it says at the bottom. And that's my biggest issue, is I'll stand there and it rubs, and I feel it almost every single day. And the days that I'm not are days probably where I'm not doing very much. But realistically, getting water, going out, cooking, you'll see me use a stool to cook because I can't stand long enough to do it without starting to feel that burning shoot down through my leg. And it's excruciating when it happens, and it can be something as stupid as simple as we all have a wallet, keys, something that when we leave and you come over and you grab that and you just do a quick little bend, just a quick little grab, maybe a little twist involved, and that was it. That was it yesterday. I literally went to move a pillow off of my bed standing up. That's it. It said nope. And so I went and I sat down, trying to go to bed, and just boop, and it shot up and down like a rocket. And it was just extraordinarily painful. And I ended up just laying down and trying to get through it. And usually when I lay down with the kyphosis, it's added time. And it takes time, so going like this, and then all of a sudden as you lay down and it starts to straighten out a little bit, so it hits that pillow and it pops. So even for me to get comfortable laying down takes me 5 to 10 minutes in a bed after a day of standing. Just have my spine basically decompress on the bed. And it sucks. And there's a lot of sleepless nights because it hurts. I can't get comfortable. And I hope none of you have to go through that. Unfortunately, I know a lot of you understand what I'm saying, and that sucks. And I'm sorry that you have to go through that too. But this is part of my journey, and it's going to be my limitations on my movement. These are my issues, and I wanted to make you aware of them and why you're maybe not going to see me on that treadmill or, pumping through and doing stuff, even an arm bike or whatever the case may be. There's been no quote unquote good day where I can go for a walk and feel better. And this is why. But I feel I owe it to you guys for joining me on this journey to see what my problems are and how that actually ties in. So overall, the outpour of comments and what you guys have said has been awesome. I appreciate them all. I appreciate every single one of you for spending the time to watch. Everyone who's liked, subscribed. I'm going to continue on this journey and push, but I wanted you guys to see the overview. See what my diagnosis is and why maybe certain things don't fit for me, and why this is going to be more about a battle with food and my personal battle with eating and losing weight. Hopefully this one isn't too boring to you, but it says a lot about me, so I felt like I had to get it out there. Thank you again for joining me on this journey. Continue to like, subscribe. And next one's going to be a little bit more fun. We're going to go through some food and cooking. And I like cooking. So I'll see you there. Take care.